I want you to do something for me tonight. When you're about to turn off the lights and your dog settles down for bed, I want you to really look at them. Not a glance, a real, sustained look. Because I promise you, they're already looking at you. And what I'm about to tell you about that stare, about what's actually happening in those final moments before they close their eyes, is going to fundamentally change how you see your relationship with your dog. Some of it will make you feel more loved than you've ever felt in your life. And some of it is going to absolutely break your heart. My name is Dr. Colin Will, and I've been a veterinarian for 19 years. I have looked into the eyes of thousands of dogs. I've seen the frantic, dilated pupils of a dog in pain, the glazed, distant stare of a dog shutting down, the bright, alert eyes of a healthy puppy. But the stare I'm talking about today, the one that happens in that sacred, quiet moment before sleep, that stare has haunted me, fascinated me, and ultimately taught me more about the canine mind than a decade of veterinary school ever could. Most people think they know what that stare means. They post about it on social media with heart emojis. My dog loves me so much he stares at me before bed. And yes, sometimes that's exactly what it is. But 3 weeks ago, a man named Robert sat across from me in my exam room and said something I'll never forget. He said, "Doc, my dog Sage has been staring at me every night before bed for 12 years. Last night, she stared at me for 20 minutes straight. She wouldn't look away. This morning, I found her dead in her bed. It's like she was saying goodbye, and I didn't know." Here's what nobody tells you. Your dog's pre-sleep stare is not one thing. It's a language. And depending on the type of stare, the context, the duration, and what else is happening in their body, that stare could mean love, or it could mean they're in crisis. Today, I'm going to teach you how to read that language. I'm going to give you the decoder. And by the end of this video, you will never misinterpret that stare again. Let's start with what most of you want to hear, the beautiful part, because it is real and it matters. Last Thursday, a woman named Claire came in with her 4-year-old border collie, Finn, for a routine checkup. Everything was perfect. Healthy weight, clear lungs, strong heart. As she was leaving, she stopped and asked, almost embarrassed, "Is it normal that Finn stares at me for like 5 minutes before he falls asleep every night? My husband thinks it's creepy." I told her what I'm about to tell you. When a healthy, well-adjusted dog stares at you before sleep, something extraordinary is happening in their brain. Research from Japan, specifically from Takefumi Kikusui's lab at Azabu University, found that when dogs lock eyes with their owners, both the dog and the human experience a spike in oxytocin, the same hormone that floods a mother's brain when she looks at her newborn baby. Your dog is literally getting a neurochemical high from looking at you. And here's the part that makes me emotional. They're choosing to end their day with that feeling. In a world full of stimulation, food, toys, smells, sounds, your dog's last conscious choice before surrendering to sleep is to look at you and feel that wave of bonding chemistry wash over their brain. But it goes deeper. Dr. Gregory Burns, a neuroscientist at Emory University, conducted MRI studies on dogs and found that the caudate nucleus, the part of the brain associated with positive expectation and emotional attachment, lights up most intensely when a dog sees their owner's face. Your dog isn't just staring at you. They're bathing their brain in the visual stimulus that brings them the most joy available in their entire lived experience. That stare is a choice. It's an intentional, self-soothing ritual. You are their meditation. So if your dog is healthy, if the stare is soft and relaxed, if they're breathing calmly, if they eventually close their eyes slowly and drift off peacefully, then congratulations. You are loved in a way most humans will never experience in their entire lives. Your dog feels safest, most content, and most at peace when their last waking image is your face. But now I need to talk about the other side, because that same stare, when the context changes, when the details shift, can mean something is very, very wrong. And the difference between "my dog loves me" and "my dog is dying" can come down to noticing details most people never see. 2 Mondays ago, I got a call from a client named Eric. He said his 7-year-old boxer, Diesel, had been acting strange for a few days, not eating much, sleeping more than usual, but the thing that worried Eric most was the staring. He said, "Doc, Diesel stares at me all the time now, not just before bed. He follows me from room to room and just stands there staring. When I sit down, he sits in front of me and stares. When I go to bed, he sits next to the bed and stares at me for hours. He doesn't even lie down anymore. He just sits there staring." I thought he was being clingy, but it's starting to scare me. I told Eric to bring Diesel in immediately. The second I saw Diesel walk through the door, I knew. The stare was wrong. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated despite the bright lights. He wasn't blinking normally. His head was slightly lowered, and his entire body looked tense. When Eric tried to get Diesel to lie down, Diesel resisted and immediately sat back up, eyes locked on Eric's face. I ran a neurological exam. Diesel failed proprioception testing in his hind legs. His reflexes were hyperactive. An MRI revealed a brain tumor pressing on his frontal lobe, the area responsible for behavior, recognition, and emotional regulation. Diesel wasn't staring at Eric because he loved him. Diesel was staring because his brain was malfunctioning. The tumor was causing confusion, anxiety, and something called visual fixation, where the brain locks onto a stimulus and cannot disengage. Here's the neurological reality that breaks my heart. When a dog develops certain brain abnormalities, whether from tumors, encephalitis, toxins, or cognitive dysfunction, they can lose the ability to process visual information normally. They stare at their owner not because they recognize them and feel love, but because their brain is desperately trying to make sense of a face that used to mean something, and now just looks like shapes and light. It's like looking at someone you know you're supposed to recognize but can't quite place. That anxiety, that cognitive dissonance, causes them to fixate, trying to force their damaged brain to remember. Diesel's family made the devastating decision to let him go 2 weeks later when the tumor caused seizures. But Eric told me something that gave me chills. He said, "I'm almost glad I know now, because for those last 2 weeks, I didn't just assume he was being sweet. I knew he was scared. So instead of just smiling at him and going about my day, I sat on the floor with him, held his face gently, and talked to him. I told him I was there, that he was safe. I like to think it helped." This is why you need to learn the difference. So let me give you the markers. A love stare is soft. The eyes are relaxed, maybe half closed. The dog's body is loose. They might sigh. They might wag slowly. They'll eventually look away or close their eyes. A neurological stare is hard. The eyes are wide or unblinking. The body is tense. The dog might pant, pace, or seem unable to settle. And critically, they don't look away. They're locked in. If your dog's stare has changed, if it's gone from a nightly sweet moment to something constant, intense, and unsettling, that is a neurological red flag. Get them to a vet within 24 hours. Now let me tell you about the third type of stare, and this one is going to hurt, but you need to know it. Last month, I had a hospice consultation with a woman named Karen and her 13-year-old golden retriever, Bailey. Bailey had been battling cancer for 8 months, and we'd reached the point where Karen needed to decide if it was time. She asked me how she'd know. I told her the truth. Bailey will tell you. 3 days later, Karen called me crying. She said, "Dr. Will, I know. Last night, Bailey came to my side of the bed. She never does that. She put her head on the mattress and stared at me. Not for a few minutes, for almost an hour. She didn't move. She didn't break eye contact. Her eyes looked so sad, so tired. I think she was telling me she's ready." I went to Karen's home the next morning. We said goodbye to Bailey together, and as I gave Bailey the sedative, as her eyes started to close, the very last thing she did was look at Karen's face. Even as unconsciousness pulled her under, her eyes tracked to Karen until the very last second. And then she was gone. Here's the truth that the science doesn't fully capture, but every vet and every longtime dog owner knows deep in their soul. Dogs know when they're dying. We don't understand the mechanism. We don't know if it's a shift in their body chemistry they can feel, a message from failing organs, or something deeper and more mysterious. But they know. And in those final days, sometimes final hours, many dogs will seek out their person and stare at them with an intensity that feels different from anything before. I've seen it dozens of times. The old dog who's been sleeping in their bed across the room for years suddenly insists on sleeping next to their owner. The dog who's never been much for eye contact suddenly won't look away. The independent dog who suddenly becomes Velcro, following their person everywhere, sitting at their feet, just watching. Some animal behaviorists believe this is a biological drive for comfort. The dog feels terrible, and their person is the safest thing they know, so they seek proximity. Some believe it's a social bonding instinct, the same reason wolves in a pack will stay close to an injured or dying member. And some, like me, believe it's something more. I believe they're saying goodbye. I believe they're taking in your face, your voice, your presence, one last time. I believe that in whatever way a dog's consciousness works, they know that this connection, this bond, this love, is about to end. And they want to hold it as long as they can. If your senior dog, especially one who's been sick or declining, suddenly changes their staring behavior, if it becomes more intense, more prolonged, more frequent, I need you to consider the possibility that they're trying to tell you something. Sit with them. Cancel your plans. Be present. Because you will have the rest of your life to wish you had. But let's pull back from the edge of grief for a moment, because there's a fourth type of stare I need to address, and this one you can actually fix. 6 weeks ago, a man named David brought in his 5-year-old husky mix, Luna. He said Luna had started staring at him obsessively before bed, whining softly, looking anxious and restless. He thought maybe she was sick. When I examined Luna, she was perfectly healthy. So I started asking different questions. I said, "David, walk me through your evening routine." He said he gets home from work around 7, feeds Luna, takes her for a 10-minute walk around the block, watches TV for a few hours, then goes to bed around 11. Luna eats at 7 and doesn't go outside again until the morning. I said, "David, Luna's staring at you because she needs to pee." He looked stunned. He said, "But she's never had an accident. She holds it all night." I explained that just because a dog can hold their bladder doesn't mean they're comfortable. Luna was staring at him, anxious and restless, because she was physically uncomfortable and trying to communicate a need. The whining, the staring, the inability to settle, it wasn't love or illness. It was, "Please, I have to go to the bathroom and I don't know how else to tell you." David started taking Luna out right before bed, around 10:45. The staring and whining stopped immediately. Luna now settles down peacefully within minutes. It was that simple. A basic need wasn't being met, and the stare was her only way to communicate it. This is critical. Sometimes the pre-sleep stare isn't emotional or medical. It's practical. Your dog might be staring because they're hungry, thirsty, too hot, too cold, in pain from lying on a hard surface, or need to eliminate. Before you assume it's love or panic about illness, rule out the basics. Fresh water available? Comfortable bed? Appropriate temperature? Bathroom needs met? Sometimes the answer is simpler than we think. Now let me teach you about the fifth type of stare, and this one is particularly insidious because it looks almost exactly like a love stare, but has a completely different cause. It's the pain stare. Last Wednesday, I saw a 9-year-old Labrador named Copper. His owner, Janet, said Copper had become so affectionate lately, staring at her constantly, especially at night. She thought it was sweet. But she mentioned offhandedly that Copper had also been a little slower on walks and didn't jump on the couch anymore. I palpated Copper's hips and spine. He flinched. X-rays revealed severe arthritis in both hips and multiple points along his spine. Copper wasn't staring at Janet because he suddenly became more affectionate. Copper was staring at her because he was in chronic pain, and humans are a dog's source of relief. When a dog hurts, they look to their person the same way a child looks to their mother when they fall and scrape their knee. It's not just love, it's a plea. It's, "I don't feel good, can you help me?" The problem is, pain stares often come with wagging tails, soft eyes, and relaxed body language, because dogs are masters at hiding pain. The only giveaway is usually a subtle change in behavior. More staring, more following you around, more physical contact, less playfulness, slight stiffness, reluctance to do things they used to do easily. We started Copper on a pain management protocol with carprofen, gabapentin, and underwater treadmill therapy. Within 3 weeks, Janet called me and said something I hear often. She said, "Dr. Will, Copper still looks at me before bed, but it's different now. It doesn't feel desperate anymore. It feels happy." That word, desperate. That's the word that helps you tell the difference. A love stare feels peaceful. A pain stare, once you know what to look for, feels desperate. The dog can't get comfortable. They keep shifting positions. They stare at you like they're waiting for you to do something. Because they are. If your dog's staring has increased and they're over 7 years old, if they've slowed down even a little, if they hesitate before jumping or climbing stairs, if they're stiff when they first stand up, assume pain until proven otherwise. Get them examined. You could give them relief they've been silently begging for. So here's what I need you to do tonight. I need you to become a detective. When your dog stares at you before sleep, I want you to ask yourself 5 questions. 1. What does the stare feel like? Soft and peaceful or hard and intense? 2. How long does it last? A few minutes or prolonged and unblinking? 3. What is their body language? Relaxed and loose or tense and uncomfortable? 4. Has this behavior changed recently or has it always been this way? And 5. Are there any other symptoms, no matter how subtle? If the stare feels wrong, if your gut tells you something is off, listen. I cannot count the number of times a client has started a sentence with, "I feel crazy, but something just doesn't seem right, and we find something serious. Your instinct is pattern recognition. Your brain is detecting micro changes you can't consciously articulate. Trust it. I want to end by telling you about a dog named Charlie. Charlie was a 10-year-old beagle who belonged to a retired school teacher named Margaret. Margaret brought Charlie in 4 months ago because she was worried. She said Charlie had always looked at her before bed, but recently the stare had become longer, more intense. She couldn't explain why it felt different, but it did. I ran a full senior panel. Everything looked perfect, but Margaret insisted something was wrong. So I did what I always do when the labs don't match the owner's instinct. I went deeper. We did an echocardiogram. Early-stage mitral valve disease. Charlie's heart was starting to fail, but he was so early in the process that it hadn't affected his blood work yet. The only sign was a subtle change in behavior that Margaret, who'd spent every single night with Charlie for a decade, was able to detect. We started Charlie on heart medication immediately. Today, 4 months later, Charlie's heart is stable. His stare is back to normal, and Margaret's vigilance bought Charlie years of life he wouldn't have had if she'd ignored her gut. Your dog stares at you before sleeping because you are the most important thing in their world. You are safety, you are love, you are comfort, you are pack. That stare is a profound gesture of trust and connection. But sometimes, woven into that love, is a message, a warning, a plea for help. Your job is not to be paranoid. Your job is to be present, to notice, to ask questions, to trust yourself when something feels off. So tonight, when your dog looks at you before they close their eyes, look back. Really look. See the love. But also see the details, the body language, the breathing, the context. Let that moment be a daily health check wrapped in a gesture of bonding. Because the more you understand that stare, the better you can love them, the longer you get to keep them. And when the day comes, and it will come, when that stare is truly a goodbye, you'll know, and you'll be there, and you'll have no regrets. If this video taught you something that will change how you see your dog tonight, please hit the like button and share this with every dog owner you know. Subscribe so you never miss information that could save your dog's life or deepen the bond you share. And leave a comment telling me what your dog does before sleep. I read every single one. Thank you for loving your dog enough to educate yourself. Now go look into those eyes and see everything they're trying to tell you.